Hello and welcome. How you doing? It's another day, another live stream. Today, XLNAudio Addictive Drums 2. One of my all-time favorite plugins ever made. As a finger drummer from for the last 30-something years, roughly, or at least since about 1998, this is the drum plugin that has done so much for me. I love it. And I hope you will too. Just do the usual, putting the keyboard down over to the side. And all the gear is set up the way it's supposed to be. The mic is working, the drums are working. I think it's going to be fine. Yeah. I was umming and ahhing for a long time as to what to do this week. I wasn't really sure what I was going to cover. But then I thought, why don't I cover one of my favorites? Something I can talk a lot about passionately and demo for you guys and girls and everything else in between. So that's what we're going to do today. I have a few grooves that I can use as play material because you don't just want to hear me play the drums. So I've got a few of my drum -1 tracks, if you will, that I can play over that might be fun to look at today. I've got a 4/4 and a 7/8 and a 5/4. And the 4/4 is very strange because it doesn't feel like it's 4/4, but it is. But yeah. Let's start with AD2 medium-sized, and favorites is on, and you heard a bit of it earlier. This kit is not at all brilliant by any means, but it's something that might be useful one day. So that's what we're starting with now. Make sure favorites is on. Yep. This one's a bit more interesting. This one is called AD2 O and Room, so I guess it's overhead and room mics. This is a bit like, later on you'll hear, the Blue Velvet. I always get blue and black mixed up. I think black... No, you know what? I don't even know. It's either black or Blue Velvet Clean, which is a personal favorite, but we'll get to that. See, it's quite compressy, it's quite heavy sounding. It's quite heavy. Very compressy. If I do the cymbals plus the bass drum here. This is less so. And this has a lovely clap. And this is called AD2 Worn Out Head. Quite nice, that. Quite nice. Black Oyster Clean. Okay, this proves the fact that it's the Blue Oyster Clean that I like the most, but this is still quite nice. Quite nice, that. I like that. Louis Morehouse. Hello, 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 hello. Already some nice people in the chat. Nick Cantos. Hey, is it going? These drums are good for American music. Yeah, they're good for all sorts of music. Just great, great. Blue and Black Oyster and Black Velvet, says Louis Morehouse. Yes, I think you are right, sir. So what I'm going to do today, more than I've done in previous, is actually talk about some of the NKS mapping, because what I can do here, for example, is take out some of the room mics by turning up knob number 3 on the keyboard, or turning it down. And then it's just the kit. I've turned down the overheads as well, but I can turn up the overheads. So we can customize. So you can get the kind of sound you want. If I turn down the overheads completely, so the cymbals are all gone now because the cymbals are not mic'd up, so you can't hear them. But if I turn up either the room or the overheads, I've turned up the room only. Very tasty. All right, so we move on to the next one, which is Black Oyster Dry and Short, and it's quite a mono sounding kit. Quite nice that. I'm not sure what I'd use it for, but that doesn't mean anything. There's a stereo pan option on knob number 8, and if you turn it, obviously that's your pan control, and then there's the width, which in this kit doesn't do anything, but in another kit where we get to much later, I'm going to show you one of my favorite kits farther down the line. It's in the R's, I think. So as we go in alphabetical order with complete control, it's going to take a while to get there, but it really changes the characteristics of the kit quite a lot. So Black Oyster Motown Distant. And here they have a tambourine. So the auxiliary percussion in Addictive Drums is very cool. On one of the keys, there is a tambourine, which is sometimes a clap, which is sometimes a cowbell. It varies from kit piece to kit piece. In this case, it's a tambourine. So I like to play it with my thumb on my left hand and do things like... And if you notice, if you listen to what I'm doing carefully, I'm actually playing it slightly before the beat, slightly after the beat in certain cases, to give it that more kind of human feel, instead of playing it with the snare every time like this. Now, if I move it back to what I was doing before, sometimes I'll choose it slightly before, sometimes after. It makes a whole difference to how it sounds, and this is something that I'm super passionate about, and that is ghost notes and getting the sound really nice. A lot of people, in my opinion, get that really wrong, and it annoys me greatly. When we get onto some really good kits for doing ghost notes and things, I'll talk about that as we go as well, because for me, this isn't just a library of, ooh, look, let's play sounds. It's a library of passion, and like I said in the beginning, finger drumming has been a passion of mine for many, many years. I said 30, I meant actually more like 20, 25. But yeah. Black Oyster Old School Funk. And someone saying about they learned about Addictive Drums from an old Blind Cool Tech podcast. Well, it was me who did that podcast in the first place. So, yes. Phil, hello. Never seen you in a live stream before. Lovely to have you along with us. And Adrian is here after having had a nice mixed grill. Absolutely. Lovely. Tom Grant here as well. Oh, wow, big chat today. We like that. Jürgen back again. Looking good. Black Oyster Old School Funk also has a tambourine, and it's nice. It's less compressy than the Motown kit. It's sort of closer. You can... This also has a very nice side stick. Such fun, these kits. As you can tell, I have a lot of fun with these. I love them. I enjoy them greatly. Black Oyster ready for jazz, so we have to do a bit of swing then, don't we? Tasteful jazz. Black Oyster roomy. Yeah, so it is probably with the, let's look at the levels here. So the overhead is at 0, the room is at -4, so it's got overheads, but it's also focused on the room sound. It's quite tasty. So one thing people ask often is, do I use the default Addictive Drums layout or do I use the GM layout, General MIDI? And I use the Addictive Drums layout because I think it has a lot more to offer than the GM does. The reason being, if you're used to finger drumming in any capacity or keyboard drumming or MIDI drumming, however you want to call it, you'll know, for example, that the D and E snares after C2, after your bass drum, is there. But then you get toms, you get 6 toms in a row. Now, here you don't get that at all. You get a continuation of snares for the next 2 keys. So you get more choice of snares. And this enables you to do things like roll and edge hits. And for each tom, which is much further down the keyboard, the normal part, edge much louder. And for things like the hi-hat, you've got hi-hat bell and things. And there's a succession of more open hi-hats in the hi-hat section. Then this one, and finally this one. Very long. And then you have hi-hat bell, then you have pedal hi-hat straight open again, and then you're onto the cymbals. And the other thing is, if you're using the Addictive Drums in the GM layout, you will not be able to choke your cymbals. All of the Addictive cymbals can be choked, like that, or this one, or this one. And I think that the chokes in Addictive sound better than most other drum libraries out there. I am admittedly very biased, but I haven't found anything that's comparable. Pre-recorded chokes are not as good because you can only have them run for as long as your sound, as long as the thing is recorded. Here I can go. So I can choke that instead of... It's my choice as to when I choose to choke that, so it's a much better sound in my opinion. So yeah. Black Oyster Slippy Vint. Probably like a Slippy Vintage. Oh, that's a nice snare. So look, this closed hi-hat, in this case, has sort of a tambourine sound in it already. So that's kind of fun if I, for example, do some ride work. Tasty that is, I like that a lot. So CB3R asks if I'm using an S88. No, I'm using an S61. And the reason I'm using an S61 keyboard instead of an 88, 2 reasons. 1, I don't have the space. 2, 3 reasons. I'm not a big fan of 88-note keyboards, and if I want to play one, I've got a piano in the corner of the room, which of course is not MIDI'd, but it's not my thing. And 3, drums on an 88-noted weighted keyboard is actually quite hard. So, yeah. So Phil asks if I could explain why I like playing the layout and if I could explain the layout on the keyboard. Well, it's funny because I had done that before even seeing that message, but I didn't explain the layout. So let me just take you through every key in the Addictive Drums layout from start to finish. We use this black Black Velvet Arena Pimp kit. We're very close to my very nice kit that I use on Jamulus a lot for doing things like the Police, things like that. So let's see. You only have one bass drum when that's on C, and that's quite regular. Then you have the hard-hitting snares on C sharp and D flat. Then the D and E snare that I talked about before. Softer. So the difference is D and E is here. C sharp and E flat is here. Then the F, which is more ringy. Then we have the side stick, which, if you're following along with me, is on the GM hi-hat, where it will be the GM hi-hat normally. Okay? Then the A is another snare. A flat is another part of the snare, but it's stick hitting the snare in a different way entirely. Then we have the first of two rides, or the first of two cymbals, I should say, because the ride is duplicated later on. I'll talk about that. The B flat here is a crash. Then we have the one of, I think, 3 or 4 auxiliary percussions, which are not in close proximity to each other, and that's on the B. The C is pedal hi-hat closed. Then we have C sharp, which is the most closed of the hi-hat sounds. Then D, slightly looser. E flat, slightly looser. E, slightly looser. Then the bell on F I talked about before. F sharp. And this begins the open hi-hats, getting progressively more open. F sharp, G, flat, A, the B flat for bell, and then the pedal that I talked about before. And then here's the ride again, which is also, so that's on C, right? So an octave and a half earlier on A, same sound. So you can trill with your left and right hand. All right, so you can do that's quite nice. So when I'm doing jazz, for example, the way I play this is like right hand is doing little finger and then thumb on the closed hi-hat. So I just do this, da, 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 da. But if I want to do the other part, the da-da, this is also what makes playing this very easy. I actually do it with my index finger on my left hand. Da, da, left, left, left. So you can get quite fast. Right, so after that, you have the ride bell, then the ride crash, and then the choke. And the way that all the cymbals work in Addictive Drums, apart from this B-flat one earlier that I mentioned, which is next to the ride, which is duplicated further down the keyboard, and again, I'll get to that, is that the cymbals are nearly always on the black keys, the white keys, and then the choke is on the chromatic above it. So the crash is on the D, and the close is on the choke is on the E flat. Then there's a gap of one key, which, as far as I know, has never been used in any Addictive Drums kit that I own. And then we have the toms. And the way the toms work are F, G, A, B. And then on the chromatic above it, so a semitone above each of those, you have the edge version of the tom. So, for example, if F, G, A, B, the softer version of the tom, then you have F sharp, A flat, B flat, C, hard version of the toms. So you can trill and do it that way. Now we have the second of our auxiliary percussions. Not all kits have the secondary auxiliary percussion, by the way. Only the newer Addictive Drums 2 kits do. When I had Addictive Drums 1 many years ago, as far as I was aware, after this C sharp, after the C, which is the end of the tom section, there was no aux percussion. So the C sharp here today is that, which complements the cowbell earlier on in the kit, which is very nice. Then we have an open, a higher version of that. I guess it's like an agogo on the D. Then the stick click for the drums, and then a gap. And then the first of 3 cymbals, F, G, and A, with their respective chokes on F sharp, A flat, and B flat. So cymbal plus choke, cymbal plus choke, and cymbal plus choke. And that, in a lot of cases, is the end of the kit, but not in all cases. An octave above, duplicated, and some kits have it, some don't. This is one that does. So again, on the F, an octave above, cymbal plus choke, and cymbal plus choke. So there's a lot of cymbals in this kit. There's 7 if memory serves. Let me drop back down because I'm playing an octave -1 here. That way I'm not playing butted up against the left-hand edge of the keyboard. On the B flat that I talked about above the ride is that cymbal. And it's also, that's duplicated, an octave, 2.5 octaves higher on the F up here is that same B flat cymbal. So B flat and F. So you can trill on those, left hand, right hand, very nicely. And they probably did that because it's the most common cymbal that you're going to want to trill on. Same with the ride, you can trill on that. So it's a very interesting layout, and it takes a while to get used to. But when I started messing with this in 2007, I just fell in love. I didn't know if I was going to like it. Someone said, "Oh, look at this," and I started playing it. And the more I played it, the more it made so much sense, and there's so much freedom. And because it has so much more to offer than the GM, I just fell in love, and I've never left since. Ah, it's great. So we move on. Beef Me Up Scotty, Black Velvet Beef Me Up Scotty. And if you notice, I love some of the cymbals in these kits. And if I told you how I did some of the tom fills and everything, it would take such an age to talk about. But if you listen to some of the things that you can do with the layout the way it is, which I would find, and I have tried, but I find it much harder in GM, like all that sort of thing is much harder in GM because the cymbals in GM are spread out in a different way entirely. But with these cymbals being so close to each other, I can just spread my little finger to those 3. And I've got my thumb, an octave and a half lower, toms. So I'm just bouncing my right hand between, and my left hand is doing all that sort of business. It's just crazy. It's just crazy stuff. Black Velvet, Big O and Room. So this is like the earlier one that we heard. So when we first started the stream, I said that these presets were called AD2, Big O and Room. So the AD2 kits is from a preset pack called Explore Addictive Drums 2. And they give you a couple of kits from a lot of the preset packs. So that one, AD2, Big O and Room, I think is from this kit piece, kit pack, which is the Black Velvet. Can do all sorts of things. Black Velvet, big, wide, coloured. Black Velvet, Big O and Room. Sounds quite similar to the previous. By the way, this is my favourite ride in all of Addictive Drums, this ride. Not when it's compressed all to hell like this, but it's just very, very tasty. So now we have the Black Velvet Clean kit, which is just gorgeous. And now you can hear the ride in all its glory. So what I do to make this kit my own is I turn the room ambience a bit down, and then I turn up the overheads quite high. And then I move over to the mixer page, and I turn up the kick a bit. It's at 6 dB now. I do have a limiter on the mainstream, so nothing should clip. I was very careful to set this up in a way that shouldn't hurt anybody's ears, or including my own. But in this instance, the way it's like this is probably one of my favorite and most playable kits. From the hi-hats to the way the toms sound, to the way the snares can be ghosted. Everything about this feels fantastic. And you can do, what do you call that, like hi-hat bounces. I love this kit. Absolutely love it. Yeah. And that little splash is gorgeous. And it's also very good if you want to do a bit of crazy drum shredding fills. Like I said earlier, the way that I can reach between these toms and everything is just great. So what I want to do is take this opportunity to, is this the right one? No, not that one. I'll change it to the next thing in the playlist. Here is a piece that I wrote called A Little Light Reading, and I can show you maybe this kit in situ with a piece, just for fun really. This is the 4/4 piece, and I'll play a bit of this, and then I'll play some of the drums. The intro drums are just intro to help me get started. They're nothing to do with the piece per se. But yeah, let's see what we got. So you can have a lot of fun. And that's just one kit. Yep. So we move on now to Black Velvet Dry Bass. And this is where ghost notes really come into their own. Got an itch. Okay, there we go. Because if you are trying to program these drums, you'd have to move each of these MIDI notes all around the place very carefully. So I like to play all my drums in. If ever you've heard a piece of mine, I've never actually step recorded my drums in my life. I always play these things in, and then I will use sort of MIDI note modification later on to sometimes fix up some of the velocities, but I always play like, you know, the thing you just heard. I would never program that, I would always play it. It makes a huge difference to how things sound. Black Velvet Dry Clean. It's a very tiny little kit. Then we have this Black Velvet Mortimer break, I think, or Morton break, I'm not sure. And it's kind of cool because this is a great intro kit. You could start a piece like this. And then you could go into your big opening. So you can have a lot of fun. There are a lot of kits like this with funky effects on. Neats Power, Black Velvet Neat Power. Quite tasty, that. So the that B cowbell. Well, I say the auxiliary percussion is always different, or nearly always different. Sometimes it's a different pitch, sometimes it's a different instrument. This one is a different pitch from the previous. Different sound slightly. And that one is Black Velvet post-grunge. It's a lovely China cymbal. Yeah. So this one, slick indie. So again, this is a great one for ghost notes because the soft snares are very soft. Some of these are not as soft in some of the kits. So you can, for example, do, of course, the Rosanna Shuffle. Very, very satisfying. Some of the drum libraries in the world, and including some of the ones in here, by the way, just ignore any kind of softness with the snares, meaning it's very hard for a jazzer like me to really enjoy them. But you can get very, very soft and very meaningful. And if you play a beat like that without ghost notes, it's just completely nothing. Not even with no hi-hat ghost notes. I mean, how rubbish. There's a difference in the hard and soft hi-hat as well. It matters. All that matters to me anyway. So I'm a big, big fan of things like that. Black Velvet Standard. Black Velvet snares. Louis says he always loved them as well. Yeah. It matters. Black Velvet Standard. Pretty standard in terms of what we've heard so far from Black Velvet. Not bad, not good. I mean, it's actually good, yeah. But I mean, it's. I still love the clean. And the one before it, actually, this Slick Indie's beautiful. It's quite a different sound from the rest of the Black Velvet range, I think. So about using some of the cowbell. Ah, Black Velvet, The Dude Next Door. I have started a piece with this before. This is cool. You can just picture it, can't you? Someone playing drums at 3 o'clock in the morning and you're trying to bash on the wall. Shut up! So good. It's nothing more than a filter, but it's absolutely the case, the way it is. So someone asked if I'm going through preset kits or custom kits. These are all presets that come with Addictive Drums. I haven't modified any of these unless I modify them on the fly because I'm in the default presets for these, yeah. Black Velvet, Thunder. Thunder verb, yeah, it is, because you can, if you listen to the slapback on the bass drum. There are a lot of chat messages to catch up with, so I'm going to try and read these as I can. And Phil asks if I want to do double bass, do I just double press the key? Yes. I think you could probably bind another one in the software, but it's the UI is not greatly accessible to us. You know, the funny thing is, I think in the GM layout they did actually bind the double bass drums to B and C as you would expect, but not in their own default layout, which is funny to me. This one is called Video Preset. That's fitting somehow. So now we're on to Blue Oyster 77 Thump. quite tight, that. Crispy hi-hats, aren't they? Quite like that. Oh, man. Blue Oyster Clean 22 kick. This is a really nice snare. And you can tell the bass drum is quite fat. Why don't we customize this kit slightly? I'm turning up the overheads, and I'll turn up the bass drum on page 2. So it's a bit richer now. Ooh, the closed hi-hat is a tambourine again, so that's nice. Nice, very nice. Blue Oyster 26 kit. Sorry, Clean 26. What was the one before? 22, so this is 26. So crazy. Okay, this one is Dry 26 kick. Oh, what fun. What fun. Oh, Papas and Mamas Wet. Now, I think I used this when in 2021, was it, Phil, if you're still listening, when we did the California Dreaming. How did that start? Or a version of that. I don't think it was that exactly. This sounds too something. I don't think it was that compressy or that reverby. I might have modified that slightly. I'm not sure. But yeah, that's a good kit for that song. Because it was Mamas and Papas, and they wrote California Dreaming. Blue Oyster, Pop Dry. Fun. Now we're into my least favorite ad pack of all of these, the boutique mallets. I just never really gelled with them. They don't have soft hitting snares, so no ghost notes work really well with these. I don't know what it is, but these just never resonated with me. I own every single ad pack there is from Addictive, but this one just never really hit the spot for me. This isn't my favorite, so I think it was like the best of a bad lot or something. I don't know. These just don't work well for me. Everything's harsh and fat, like this ride is just way too huge. And everything feels like you just have to play it slowly and through molasses. Boutique mallets. What was I even tell you the name of that kit? Did I? That was Big Sticks, and this one is Bonbons, so it's another boutique mallets kit. I guess again, we're just trying to make the best of a bad lot. Like this is the ride. It sounds more like a crash. That's the ride crash. And I think part of it is actually that this is supposed to be done with mallets and things. I mean, it's called boutique mallets, so it makes sense. But the ride just sounds overly fat. And again, that's fat with a PH. I not like it. Funky sticks, at least. Has a nice funky bass drum, and it does have a decent side stick. So you heard me on, for example, the big indie kit earlier, where if I was to play the Rosanna Shuffle on this, the ghost notes, the lowest level that I can hit the key at in a hurry is still much louder than I would like, so it would sound like really fake. I can't get behind that, no. Oh dear, okay. Boutique mallet's neutral. So the snares must be off. Something, isn't it? Now we have deterministic, which is, I'm sure, one of the old Addictive Drums 1's kits, which is lovely. These roll beautifully. See, that's ghost notes for you. Soft snares that you can actually feel in your bones. It's very ringy, yes, but it is actually very, very nice for all the ringy. This one is called Deterministic Sampler. I'm amused by the filtering on the cymbals. It's like a quick tape spin up. It's all flappy and silly. Well, now we get on to some Fairfax kits. Very, very nice. Just trying to read the chat because I've been ignoring it a bit. Mitchell Bridwell, love the toms. Yeah, sorry. I'm really far behind. 4 square meters this kit is called. I'll play it a bit one-handed while I read the chat. What I'm trying to do is catch up with the chat with my right hand and play drums with my left very badly, for which I apologize. But I'm now caught up, yay! Happy days. Oh, that's cool. This one is called, I think it's called Bincy Bouncy. I think I should play that one kind of fast. Or something. Silly. Bright and Broken, which is huge. Oh wow, those toms are just ginormously floppy. So silly. Oh, this is nice. This one is called Cheerful. Yes, if you're thinking Valerie, so was I. Dual Boost Fairfax bundle. It's quite nice, that. Fair Fox. And if you listen to the cymbals, they're a bit saturated. I don't know why, but I just find that quite cute. Gretsch Light. Yeah, gotta get the riff right. Well, I say riff, but it was Fairfax bundle. What's that word? Fairfax bundle. Patage. Sounds French. That's really weird. Like the snares are. Very strange snares, aren't they? They're like hidden and they sound like they're inside a clock radio. Fairfax bundle, I think that says The Beats. Oh, so should we do like tasty? Okay, this is a weird name again, Fairfax bundle something. I want to say That Sucks or It's Uts or I don't exactly know what it says. These snares are very strange. Very machine gunny, but obviously it's on purpose. Not all kits are like that. They've got round robins and everything, but this kit is very much not that, and I kind of like it for that. It's a bit left field. Oh, the hi-hats are all delayed. Hang on, did the cymbal... Oh no, it's strangely one with the bass drum. It's bouncing up with compression. And the toms sound like miniature footballs. How very bizarre. Fairfax bundle wool. So, Fairfax Volume 1 Blues, yeah. What Addictive Drums do is you can get kits in bundles. So if you get, for example, Fairfax Volume 1 and 2, then you get kit, the bundle presets use a combination of both Volume 1 and 2 kits. The Modern Jazz bundle contains brushes and sticks, and the bundle kits use a combination of both kits. And if you don't purchase them together, then you won't be able to use those presets, of course. But since I have everything, I can. Now we get on to the volumes instead of the bundle kits. So now we actually see what they've got to offer. So blues, yeah. That was a quite soft, not a very wide open hi-hat. See, I used the wrong key. If I'd have used this one. See, and the way that I can do that with the GM opening the hi-hat as I progress more through the riff. Not be possible if I use the GM. You couldn't do that with the GM layout because there's not enough keys on the keyboard to do it. I suppose when GM was invented, people didn't have, you know, these kind of multi-layered round robin things like that. It just wasn't in their wheelhouse. And people say, oh, I only want to use it if I can use it in GM. And I say, well, you can do that, but you're limiting yourself immediately out of the box. If you bought this kind of expensive drum library, the least you could do is give it a fair shot at its default layout and try to learn it. Give yourself, you know, 2 months, 3 months, see if you can deal with it, because you'll be so much better off if you do. I can't stress this enough. Just so good there. This is SFX Volume 1, cleanish. That's harder than I thought. There we go. Folk rock. So what do we got to do there then? Like a... I don't know. It's not really folky, is it? This one is called Like a Machine. Fairfax Volume 1, Like a Machine. Why is it like a machine? The machine gun? That's a beautiful china. I like that a lot. Ooh, yeah. Can't say I remember that. Too old for school. If you notice, there's a bit of vinyl noise in the background, or some kind of noise to give a... Maybe it's tape noise. Cool. I like the feel of that. Ooh. So Louis Morehouse says his dad was playing the Beatles in the other room and I was playing along with it somehow, without meaning to. How funny. And Michelle, yeah, I know why people program their drums, and I get that. But if you can, or even if you play slower, if you've got a piece that's like, hold on. This is called Anywhere, by the way, before we move on. Volume 2 now. If you've got a piece that's kind of like, you know, no one's going to know or care if you slow it down and play it much slower, because you'll play it with feel. It's called cheating where I come from, but if you don't tell anyone, then no one knows you did it. If a tree falls in the forest, then there's no one there to hear it, did it fall? So if your piece is... You can't do it, just slow it down. And then when you speed it up, the more time you take over it, the better it will sound for it. Trust me. Even if you start really slow and just put down... Add the snare. Hi-hat. Because you'll think of nuances when you play it rather than when you program it and you're just going... and it's probably very close to velocity, very similar. But when you humanize it and you play it like a human, you're gonna not gonna be gonna. And if I was to record that and look at those velocities, probably no three of them would be the same. And drums are better for that. Fairfax Volume 2, Big O and Room, so they seem to have one of these in almost all the kits. That's fun. That's fun. And Castanisha says, programming the drums will also not include the human touches of pushing and pulling the rhythm. Absolutely. And this is why I'm so big into finger drumming. It's so niche and so geeky and nerdy, and most people won't care, but oh, I love it. I absolutely love it. Fairfax Volume 2, Clean 20s Brass. Thump snare, I think that says. This kit, I feel like needs a beat like that, which is not swung, not the J Dilla, you know, but just sort of a bit. Bit like that, a bit loose, but not swung loose, just sort of like that. Faxa 2, Volume 2, Faxa 2. Listen to that snare. There's some strange artifacts in the background there. It's quite reverby. Not sure what you do with that. Late Reflections, listen to the toms, they're reverby. Got a bit of slap back on them there. Quite cool. Yeah. Ooh. Funk, bone funk. Very ringy, isn't it? But it's not bad for that. It's just very ringy. This one is called Chicken Bone and is a personal favorite. So we're on to a new pack now, the Funk pack. So all the presets begin with the word funk. I love the toms in this. They're nice. But I dislike very intensely the ride. I cannot speak. I need water. Beautiful spread on the toms, but these ride. is horrible. So at some point I need to get help from somebody, my wife, my son, to change out that ride and save it as a preset, because I cannot stand it. It annoys me greatly. I not like. Funk Early Fusion. And Nick says some drum libraries have a humanized function. Of course they do. But so does every DAW as well. It doesn't make it any good. I would much rather you spend time doing it and have some fun, you know. Yeah. I like ringy snares too in their place, as long as they don't conflict with the music I'm making. Because you can have a lot of fun with the sound. That's early fusion, by the way. So I suppose if you're going to do some early fusion, hey, you know what? We'll go back to this funky. Anyway, that's the fun you can have with a kit like that. Get defunk. All that. If you were to step into that, you'd be there for ages trying to get the right. All that funky business. Now we move on to a different ad pack. This is the indie pack. Quite open. This one is Come On Down, so it's a different sound, but same pack, indie. Notice again that even when I play these snares very, very, very softly, they're still in this sort of audible range. Ghost notes should be kind of audible / subaudible. And I can't really ghost notes on these in the way that I would. See, it's not quite. This one is indie fat and tight, and it's definitely that. toms are nice. Very deep toms. Or at least the floor tom. Rajesh is back. Hello. Indie rock. Something about the deepness of this snare means that ghost notes don't feel so high in the mix, which is good. I kind of like that. Yeah, I'm fine with that. Large and open. Ooh. Spike Stenton DA, I think. That's not a bad side stick. Tasteful. Metal, a Brit of punch. Or a bit of punch. So this one. Rather funky, isn't it? Love the hi-hats in this. The open stuff is lovely. Madness, madness. Why am I always looking up, says Jill P2. Because I am not focused on the screen or the camera. And also I'm totally blind. So if that's your focus, you're watching the wrong channel. You're here for your ears, not for your eyes. Yeah. Crispy clean metal. I kind of like the compression on that, actually. Madness. Force metal. Again, football toms, I call them, because they sound like if you took one of the, crappy old footballs from the 80s that had a smooth plastic shell that you could kick against the wall one time and it would burst, just like that. It's gone. That's what these toms remind me of. If you slap one of those with your hand, it's hollow inside. That's what that sounds like. Guitars by Geordie. Hello, mate. How you doing? Room Overdrive. Oh, now again. Lovely. I can't speak when the mic is. That's a lovely ride. China cymbal. That's lovely. Big time. Yes. Now we get into. This is Modern Jazz Brushes, and this is called 30th Street. I want to show you something with these kits. It's kind of interesting because if you change the room that these were recorded in, it sounds like, if you step back from it, that you're in a massive rehearsal space and you're just standing by the side of the kit as a drummer's up on stage. So first of all, I'll show you. That's overheads, and it's kind of, you know, nice and close. So we turn down the overheads and then we turn up the room. See, now you're standing far from the kit across the room, and then like... That's so much fun. Oh dear. This one is called Club Gig. So what, we should do like I don't know, jazz club. Or perhaps notice it has lovely tambourine again. So now, in the GM layout, I said that you'd have a C snare and a B snare. Sorry, bass drum. C bass drum, B bass drum. Now, below the octave, you've got brushes and sweeps and swirls and things like that. And it goes down as low as the D below that octave, and then they stop. So you can hear them there. And the bass drum makes the brushes ring, the snare ring very nicely. You can hear so you can hear the snares ring out very nicely in this kit. So cool. This one is called Modern Jazz Brushes, Modern Brush. Madness, madness. Modern Jazz Brushes, Modern Brush. That's the GM version of it. For some reason, I saved that as well. Okay, now we have the Modern Type Brush, which is nice. Ringy. Ah, this is the no room kit. The bass drum in this is just so fat. Madness. So now we're into the jazz bundled kits, and we have this jazz beats. So if you missed the conversation earlier, I was saying that when you have the bundle kits, usually, well, not usually, there has to be more than one volume of kits in a pack. So in the case of, for example, the Fairfax, you have Fairfax Volume 1 and 2, and therefore you have bundle kits. And the bundle kits use sounds from either Volume 1 or Volume 2. In the case of the jazz kits, there are jazz sticks and jazz brushes, and the bundle kits use sounds from either jazz brushes or sticks. So we have snares in this case. Very saturated ride cymbal, look at that. lovely. I love that. Then we have the low jazz. Crazy. That's huge. Low modern. Modern jazz sticks Chicago upbeat. Clean W comp, so that's clean with compression. So again, this is a kit that has good ghost notes. The snares are, you know, nice and low in the mix, so you can do a lot with them. And let's see, do I have my 7/8 piece here? Yes. Modern jazz sticks, no room. And this one is very close and tight. So you can have a lot of fun with these these kits and playing along with the piece. Good practice. So this one is Owen Room. We know that these exist pretty much everywhere. So bass drum is very, very far away, and the snares are very loud. This one is room with comp, so it's like Owen Room, but it's no overhead, or at least not much of it, and this one has compression. Notice just how well the ghost notes, I'm trilling them with my D and E, with my left hand, my D and E, and it feels to me anyway like it's just very got a real feel to it, and I can. This is one of those kits where the soft hits have a soft attack, whereas some of the other kits the soft hits have a really hard attack, so they don't feel real. But this just really works. There's something about that kit that just very much stand out in a way that some of the others don't, and I think that's just really incredible. Just how it sounds is fantastic. So we're moving on to another kit, a kit pack now, which is the Modern Soul R&B, and so the first one in here is the brown snare. This one, the auxiliary percussion in this, is a lovely clap. Absolutely gorgeous. Demo song. Mad stuff. This is my favorite from this kit pack, the Dirty Snare, this ad pack. This one, the bass drum in this is just stonking when you hit it soft, and when you hit it hard, it has a low sub ring. I love it. And this one, snare in this is just gorgeous. Everything from the cymbals to the toms, just I mean, it's ridiculous. Just ridiculous. But lots of fun. Okay. Now we have the Modern Soul R&B. What's that? Goth Soul. Loose heads on the snare, I suppose, or the toms. Yeah, it is certainly that. What's fun? Modern Soul R&B. I'm not sure what that word is. Is it too vast or traversed or something? What is that? Very tight snare though. Very. strange snares, but very kind of ticky. So that the ticky snares go along with the very ticky hi-hats. I don't know. Modern soul R&B. Used to love you, it says. Oh, it's got to be slow and sad, doesn't it? Well, I used to love you. Yeah. Now we change kit pieces again, kit packs and packs. And we get onto some real machines. So these are all like old machines from the 80s and 90s and things like that. Excusez-moi. So this is fun. So this is an 80s Lindrum kit. So these snares are not necessarily tied to one another in this case. Whereas normally, for example, in the kit piece, in the kits before, all the snares would be related in some way. The D and E snares are related, yes, but the C sharp snares do not relate to the D and E snares. The F snare is higher, and then you have the G snare, which is different again. And that's so that they can fit all them in while keeping the same layout. And so, for example, the toms don't relate. Normally, you'd have the soft tom and then the edge tom, but in this case you have percussion there. So it's quite different. You have to kind of rethink how you're going to play these. But it's alright, it's fun. Current value A. Oh, it's very saturated. That's so funny. The DMX Holiday-ish is one of my favourite Real Machines kits. So we've got a lovely deep snare on the G and the F. And the E and the D and the E are together, and F and G. So you can, you know, so much fun. Okay. So we have Groove Robot. These you can play in very different ways than you can play the other kits, for example, because these toms do not really have any relation to other things. So you can play these kits in ways that I wouldn't normally do. And Rajesh asks if there's any for reggae. You can turn a lot of these kits into reggae, just how you play them. You'll hear some later that will probably work extremely well for reggae. Yes. This is called Lindrum Paisley. Since the snares, since all the kit pieces are in strange places, you can have silly amounts of fun. This one is weird. This is called Milano Bass Machine, and there seems to be no snares at all in it. It's just all that bass. All about that bass. There is no snares, literally no snares. Like, none. But there are very funky toms. Whoa, Simmons SDS processed. Those are fat toms. And snares too. Oh, the clap is cool. Very silly. A total discharge. The snares in this are tiny and small. There's the GM version. For some reason I saved that. Yes, I do have the percussion, but because it's in order, we'll get to that. It's called, and it's very good, and we'll get to that soon. So we're in the retro bundle now, the 60s mono room. The gate on that snare is very tight. Close and dry. And the doorbell has gone. But today, someone's actually here. My family is here on Saturday for the first time in many weeks, so I don't have to rush off and get the door. Every other live stream, the door's gone, I have had to run away. Disco era, yay. Oh, like... Quite nice toms too. Cool. Okay, I saved the GM version of that too. Retro bundle, low vintage. Oh, that cowbell is strangely saturated again. Soul sussed. I expected you here. You did not disappoint. Welcome. And this one is retro bundle, old muffle. Cool. Oh, this one is very strange. It's Vista Breed, and it has it has tambourine on all the snare hits, so you don't need to use the auxiliary percussion. Well, actually, you can because it's cowbell, so you can. This one is called Blue Notes. days. Retroplex Drive. This is nice because it's unaffected. I wonder how big the bass drum is in this one, because it seems kind of small and cute. This one is what's it called? 3 rhythms. It's got a very weird word on the end. It's like 3 rhythms or something. But again, it's like that kind of intro piece. You could use it as an intro, or if you're pretending to be on the phone. You could start your piece with that, and then you could switch to something else. So you could be like, so you switch from one to the other. Now we get onto the session percussion. This is fun. Oh, this is so fun because the toms, well, what would be the toms are all those things. So congas, I love that. It's great, isn't it? It's just very, very expressive snare. Just, I don't know, it's just lovely. I kind of want to bring it closer and turn some of the room down. Cool. That's just cool. Gotta say. Yeah. We like. Then this one is Clean Pandero. So the interesting thing about this is that these are the snares. Again, extremely expressive. Like, I can hit these super soft and harder. That's the bass drum. And then the hi-hats. I don't know about you, but I think it's pretty cool. I'm probably not playing those things the right way, you know. Not sure, but doesn't detract from the fact that that sounds incredibly cool. Session percussion funk. So somebody asks how you do rolls on keys. Music drum. Well, it varies on the drum library. It varies on the layout. For Addictive Drums, you can just... I'm trilling with my D and E, but also in my right hand, I can use the G key, which is usually a soft snare, and add that in. So it all depends on the library. That's why I like this loud as well. It gives me such flexibility. This one is old school perk. Silly. Again, Pandera. And this is a sound that I've never heard in any other drum library in my life, this Pandera. And it's just, again, so expressive, so, I don't know, it's just... beautiful. It's just such a great sound. This one is percophone, so I guess again another of these sort of on the phone. And this one is called Submachine. See, what they did with that is I think they took away any of the round robins, so it does become sort of machine gunny like the old school drums of the 80s and 90s. Yes. Session percussion, transients. Kind of like the ridiculous low pitch of the stuff. Silly. We are now into an entirely new ad pack. This is the Studio Bundle. That's fun. Dry Joe. Who's Joe? And, well, I won't ask that question. Notice again, the soft notes on this snare are really actually quite hard. I'm playing them as soft as I can. It's because the thing is very compressed. So this is not meant for doing ghost notes with, if you ask me. And this is Flat Joe, so it's not as compressed as Dry Joe. See, that's better for the ghost notes because you can actually... Ooh. That's a beautiful, tiny, tiny crash splash. Lovely stuff. Garage Jam Road. Yeah, that's what that's called. Studio Bundle Garage Jam Road. How do you use this then? Ooh, madness. Now, this one is called Mr. Perk, and it's funny because the hi-hats are sort of scratchy shakers. Yeah, that's what they sound like. That's the snare. So you can do kind of strange, you know, yes, that's one of the cymbals. That's another. That's another. That's actually the ride. It's a bit silly, isn't it? But it's kind of fun. Ah, Muffle. This is a beautiful kit. And I wrote a track called The Answer with this kit. And it's just something about it. It has these very lovely hi-hat things that do well with ghosts. Is actually, like I was doing things like in my track I was doing. Ah. Quite nice, just I love that. It just kind of flows beautifully. Then the snares themselves are also quite nice, and the toms. There's just nothing offensive about this kit, really. Kasana says that you've played with a pro percussionist who had a Pandero. I'd love to actually see one in person. I don't know what they look like. Don't understand them. I really want to see what they do. This is Steely kit, so it's kind of, I guess, supposed to be a Steely Dan or something. I'm not sure. Quite a tight snare, but it's got a sort of, it's almost a gated effect, but I don't actually think it is gated. Not sure. Studio pop banging. Wait. Strange kit. Well, so's this. It's called Featherhead, but it's also pretty cool. A junglist, so you have to kind of jungle. Hard stuff at that kind of speed, but fun nevertheless. This is called Latin Punch, and it reminds me of that Spin Doctors song. You know the one, but I don't remember how it goes. Very, very ringy snare, isn't it? Very, very, very ringy. Studio pop, Northern Soul. Very strange mono snare, but then everything else is all over the place. What a strange kit. Same snare, but with a different feel to it. This is, I think, rock buzzed. Oh. Sonic clean. I like this kit. Yes. Studio pop, Wind Tunnel. This is kind of nice. I feel like it should be chilled. You know, I've asked XLNAudio time and time again if I could come to their studio in Sweden and do a live demo of how I use Addictive Drums and how I play it on a keyboard as a finger drummer. Because most people don't do that, but they've never taken me up on the offer. Maybe they just don't want to ship me out to Sweden. I want to go to Sweden. I've never been to Sweden. Sweden sounds like fun. Not just for the meatballs. Studio Prog 70s kit. I like the toms in this kit. I like this kit. I've used this a long time ago as well for all sorts. And again, it has a nice side stick. Also, it has a really, really nice hi-hat bell. Yes, I like. I was just testing the adding room ambience or taking it away and having very not many cymbals. Good times. Oh, I missed one. Hang on. This is Studio Prog Beverly Hills. Oh, the snare on that. It's very tight, isn't it? It's tight, but also got a lot of room to it. I kind of like it. DW Funk. Studio Funk Solid Rubber. Studio Prog Clean, which is a nice one. It's got a nice ride to it. Lovely toms. And again, that nice splash. I think it's a different one from earlier, but it's nice. And let's see. I've turned the room all the way down. I turn the overheads up. Again, see, it works with ghost notes quite well. And that is a beautiful tiny cowbell. Now, this is the kit I was talking about earlier when I said you can make it from mono to stereo. It's called Vintage Years, but it also works well for so many different styles, like what I was doing earlier. This is one of my favorite kits of all time, and I can't really put my finger on why, other than it is just very, very playable. And you can do whatever, pretty much any genre you want with it. For example, it works well when you do... That's just lovely. And then on the keyboard, on the first page of parameters, knob number 7 is the width of the kit. And when you turn it up like it is now, the kit spreads out and it's just, oh. I love that. I don't know why, but I just have. From the first time I heard that kit, it's like, yes, I really... Something about that. This one is strange. It's called ZQR, and it's Studio Prog. It's one of these sort of out there kits that XLN like to throw in. I like that they have these just unusual things. Oh, this is a Pearl plus Tama, or another of my favorite kits. The snare in this, very, very expressive snare in here. And these toms, the way they kind of tighten up as you hit them harder. I think it was on this kit where I perfected this very fast, what is this, 30 seconds fill? And if I play that slower, it's not, is it? It's triplets. Yeah, it's like 16th triplets or something. It's really fun. Studio Rock Clean Tama. Nice. This is Driver, and it's very, very compressed. Oh, Drive Verb. Heavy Dude. Hugo Argentina, this stream is the highlight of your week by far. Well, thank you very, very much. Studio Rock, Rumitama. See, again, nice for rolls. That is a very, very deep deep floor tom. My goodness. United Heavy Broken Sign. So these another kit piece, another ad pack, sorry. These are nice. There are quite a few plugin manufacturers in Sweden. There is Nord, there's Addictive Drums, well, XLNAudio I should say. There is Toontrack that make Superior Drummer. There are a few others as well, but I can't remember who, but I know there's at least a few others. I do think it's funny that two of the world's biggest plug-in manufacturers for drums are based in Sweden. Yeah, that's interesting. Okay, hang on. United Heavy Natural Alloy. This one is nice. It's called PCD Pretend Kit. The snare in this is just... Oh, wow. That's far out to the right. And it's also a very beautiful China cymbal. That cymbal's also far out. I like it. Very tasteful. This one is very quiet. It's called Rolling Beat, but it's just it's got a kind of a low output level. Yeah. This one is called United Heavy with a Snap. Hey. Zildjian Groove. It's very fun. And now we move on to another ad pack, which is United Pop. So the first one was sort of rock based, this one's more pop based. Called acoustic pop. It's quite nice actually. Clean Ludwig. They have a clave. That's cool. And a castanet there. I wonder why they put that there. That's very interesting. Coming Home. Gated snare. Yeah, I suppose. This one is a funny one again. One of their stranger editions. It's called Processed Beat. The toms are weird. And the cymbals. And you say, you have fun with drums. Yes, I have fun with drums. Having fun with drums is what I do. Oh dear. This one is just push and dry, which is kind of... Quite like that. United Pop Roller Coaster Ride. Yes. Uh-oh. That wasn't supposed to happen. Okay. Just checking something. There we go. United Pop Upstairs. Ooh. Soft tambourine. Now we move on to Vintage Dry 1976 Sideburns. Now this is lovely. The auxiliary percussion in this is a clap, and it's got a bit of slap back on it. I love that. That's really cool. Ooh. Did I miss one? Battery dry. Oh, this is also nice. I like these dry toms. Yay. That's nice. Clean early 70s. Quite soft, isn't it? The ride is a bit chunky, but it's okay. This is Disco Dirt. This is, what's that? Freed 54. But listen to that. Listen to the ringiness on that. Not the ringiness, sorry, like the amount of snare on that snare is through the roof in a nice way. That's cool. And a lovely click on the more auxiliary percussion on the end. Nice reverb on there too, isn't there? But the toms and all the kit stays dry, it's just all the aux percussion that does not. Tasty. Vintage dry hi-fi. I dig it. Natural punch. I quite like that. And guess what? Nice and short stream today. We have actually come to the end of proceedings. So I'm going to go around a bit to find something fun to end with. Yeah, we can use this. But you know what? It's been a fun one. It's been short but fun, which surprises me because normally we don't do short here, but apparently it's shorter today. Only an hour and some change. Oh, 2 hours and some change because I started at 2. Wow, it's like the first day when you did the stream for the Arturia stuff. So, what would you like to hear next time? I'm not sure I'll do every week, but I've done now 6 in a row. Seems a shame to break a winning streak. But man, so good. Freedom 54 sounds like the snare from Rock With You. Yes, it did actually, now you mention it, Phil. That would be good. If we do that in Jamulus, I'll use that kit. That would be great. I knew it sounded like something when you mentioned it, but I couldn't think of it. It's annoying. Well, I'll tell you what, we'll end with a bit of this, shall we? Bit of 5. Yeah, you know what? I've had fun. And I saved a lot of favorites. I've always wanted to do this, by the way, but I was going to do it as an Inspired by Sound video, but going through all of my Addictive Drums favorites, all of them, every single one, and playing a bit on each one. That is just so much fun for me. Lots of coolness. If you're buying Addictive Drums based on this stream, thank you. If you are, let me know in the comments or in the live chat if you're still here. But I'd be curious to know what you think of it and if you enjoyed this. And yeah, what do you want to hear next week? James Berry, a friend of mine, suggested that I do the Play series instruments, all of them, or at least a few sounds from each of them. I'm also thinking of doing a live stream where I build a track with a library or set of libraries that people request. So that'd be fun as well. But yeah, I'm going to end it here and say thank you for listening. I've enjoyed it, and I need to stop the music so that it doesn't cut horribly, because I have a real problem with people that just end things and things are still trying to play as they leave. I don't like that at all. So without further ado, I'll leave you in peace, and I'll see you next time. Thank you so much for joining me today.